Order. The member for Wright.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education. On what basis does the Minister believe that courses including English spoken word, education support and childcare are a waste of students' time and taxpayers' money? And with your leave, Speaker, and that of the House, I'll explain.
Well, leave is sought. Is leave granted? Leave is granted. The member for Wright.
On Tuesday, In Daily reported that Marden College will no longer be offering particular courses next year, with the Minister quoted as saying, I quote here, "Courses that are a waste of students' time and taxpayers' money will not be supported."
The Minister for Education.
I thank the member for the question. I point out that the quote he identified in his explanation does not actually match up with its use in the question. I did not ever say that childcare, for example, would not be supported. In fact, childcare is one of the key 26 pathways, just for example, that is being supported, that will be continuing to be offered in schools. It's specifically identified—
Order. The member for Wright.
The member for Wright makes a claim without justification. The fact is that the childcare is identified as indeed one of the 26 flexible industry pathways that this government is investing in, is identified as being skills shortages. One of the wicked problems that the government's reforms in vocational education and training is seeking to fix is that we have a model of training in vocational pathways called the Training Guarantees for Secondary Students or School Students. It is funding provided from the Minister for Innovation and Skills Department, which supports school students to undertake VET pathways while they're at school. The challenge in this area where a school provides that VET pathway for a student who doesn't intend to go on to that pathway to employment, but indeed then seeks to do another VET course later, is that the entitlement with the training guarantee for school students is for them to do a Cert 3 once. And then when we came to government, for example, many of our students that then wanted to undertake traineeships or apprenticeships or subsequent vocational education and training had indeed had their entitlement under the TGSS spent. Our government had to refund many of those students so that they didn't have a block on their future capacity to do a vocational education and training pathway, because we value vocational education and training. We value it so much that we are seeking to, throughout our careers counselling improvements, throughout our public messaging, throughout our advertising through schools and indeed in the public, and indeed in our investments in training, more than $200 million of new money introduced by this government, we are seeking to reassure students and families and parents and indeed educate those in the schooling sector who weren't previously on board that vocational, skilled, technical qualifications are often the pathways to rich, exciting, diverse careers, great jobs and reliable careers. Indeed, 80% of the fastest growing job areas in our economy are often in skilled and technical pathways, whether it's aquaculture or agriculture or cyber or mining and resources or traditional trades. These are areas, and there's 26 of them on the website. I very much encourage the member for Wright to have a look at these flexible industry pathways that have been identified. They've been identified on the basis that these are the areas where there are job outcomes. They've been identified on the basis that the industry skills councils, comprising industry representatives and business representatives in South Australia, have said that these are the areas where there are jobs growth, where there are pathways to employment, so that when a student has done a vocational pathway, preferably with good careers counselling, some VETRO, some stackable VET potentially, some introduction to trades in Year 10 or even Year 9 or earlier, which is part of our reform too, they can then go on to a Cert 2 or a Cert 3 when they're in Year 11 or 12 that is identified as a genuine pathway to employment, where their parents can be reassured that there's a job at the end of it. Straight out of the end of school, they could even get a traineeship or an apprenticeship while they're still at school, and we will help them get their SACE. We'll rearrange the school day, the school year necessarily to work with their business so they can get their SACE as well, be on a pathway, or go into further training, or go into university. This is a very exciting set of reforms, and we are very, very proud of the work we're doing to reinvigorate VET in South Australia and increase its profile and increase its support.
Order. The